Hello ratbags, it's Jade. Welcome to a special video today where I'm just going to talk about some games that I think have elements of Valheim that you should basically go and try out. I love Valheim. I've spent so much time over the last 6 weeks playing it. It's hit 5.5 million players and I know you guys are desperate for more new content. But in between the content drops that will take some time, what other games are out there that have got some similarities? Some games that you might enjoy that have got a lot in common with Valheim. So loosely based. Don't get all upsetty spaghetti because I've not mentioned a game or I dare to compare one game to another. It's all just about, for me, elements of either survival, exploration or even Norse or Viking mythology. I'm also going to talk about a few games you need to absolutely avoid and a couple of games that I'm really looking forward to that may have some things in common with Valheim. I've been meaning to do this video for weeks, but recently Richard, the creator of Valheim, tweeted out support for a Viking RTS builder and that inspired me to go ahead and absolutely get this video done and dusted. So do make sure you like, make sure you subscribe for the best in survival games news and opinion, and let me take you through some other games you may like if you like Valheim. So since Richard tweeted this one out, I figure we'll give it a little look. Now there's plenty of Viking building games out there actually. There's been a whole host of them in a few last years, or just medieval based. But this does look pretty cool. It's an RTS management resource sim game, so you will be directing your Vikings to go and gather resources and then maybe shore up defences and defend against other raiding clans. A pretty interesting title that's new in the works. Does look like it's going to be releasing in May in early access on Steam. So if you are looking for more Viking influenced games, then go and check out one that has been highlighted by the creator of Valheim himself. Rune 2 is definitely obviously a bit Viking and Norse mythology inspired. If you like them kinds of things in Valheim, you may enjoy this game. This game isn't great, it's got quite a few downsides. I nearly didn't recommend it, but if you really love Norse mythology and you're looking for something else, then this might be for you. It came out on Steam a few months ago, it's been out on the Epic Games Store for about a year before that, and it had significant issues. Just when it launched, the original development team literally quit and left the publisher scrabbling around trying to find someone to help keep the game alive, literally on the day of launch. Over the next year, they did get some people to work on it. It took quite a while, and they've updated the game a couple of times with some fairly meaty content. I have to say, when I first played it, it was pretty janky, the voice acting was laughably bad, and there was just a whole host of things that I really didn't like about this game. But there were some good stuff. The way that you can explore a huge open world, jumping on the raft, crafting, there's all sorts of new locations added and they've done quite a bit, so it's definitely something I need to revisit and give it a more fair appraisal 1 year later. But for sure, Norse mythology, if you love that kind of thing, I think you may enjoy this. It's got all the usual characters like Loki, and definitely if you can handle a little bit of cheese, you may be okay. The combat is pretty bloody and gory, and of course it is a third person game, and they've even got proper co-op as well, with even some PvP style servers or game modes that you can try out. So yeah, maybe something to pick up in the sale and give it a shot. Outward is a fantastic little co-op experience if you can live with a little bit of jankiness. You can even play this game split screen, it's available on consoles and PC. They've released 2 paid DLCs in the time that it's been out, and they've had some little quality of life improvements. I think if the game had launched with them quality of life improvements, maybe some of this DLC was part of the main game, I would have given this game a much better review score when it first came out. I wasn't that kind on it. I found the world a little bit too empty and the jankiness just was a bit too off-putting for me. But since that time, seeing how much they've added to it, it's definitely something I've wanted to re-check out and see if I can give it a fairer review now. It's got the RPG elements of Elder Scrolls games. You will be exploring all unique biomes, talking to NPCs, so a little bit more involved than Valheim. There's no actual base building, although the last DLC did add a settlement system that you can upgrade. But in terms of a sort of hard survival RPG game, I think this experience is kind of on par with Valheim. Going to the unknown, making sure you have to be really prepared before you go near certain enemies, that's all part of the Outward experience. So yeah, something that didn't start off great for me, but definitely over time has received a lot of love, and I think it's definitely worth checking out. Stranded Deep has you on a sail ship most of the time as you're going exploring a procedurally generated style world. It's got tiles in fact, so no playthrough is ever going to be the same. They'll mix up different islands in different directions, and you've got bosses to fight, giant octopus, giant sharks, all while gathering resources and surviving. It's got a lot more simulation aspects. You've got to make sure you've got your food, your water, and it's a bit of a grind getting resources to build your fantastic big old shacks on the beach. Problems are though that you don't really need to build bases. You can get maybe just a rudimentary place to have the workstations, but there's no base defense, no creatures are going to come and attack your base, so it's all just about making somewhere nice if you're really into that, having a base that looks good while you go and explore, and hopefully avoid the sharks that will attack your raft. You can upgrade your raft a little bit, and you can even access a gyrocopter in the end. It came out on Xbox and PlayStation a while ago, and it was a bit of a saga getting there. The company Telltale Games, the publishers behind it, went out of business just before it was meant to come out. A year and a half later it finally arrived, and it was a decent little game. I did find that I got a little bit too bored of just sailing around and maybe doing the same similar sort of things, but since that time on PC they've added a bunch of updates, they've expanded the map nearly twice as big, and they've added more generation to it to make more unique playthroughs. They're also still adding more content. What they need to do now is give us proper multiplayer. On Steam it's only got split screen co-op, or I should say the Steam share function, so it's not really proper multiplayer, and on Xbox and PlayStation we don't even have split screen. So if they can get that done, it'll be another great reason to go and try this out. Like I said, a little bit like Valheim in explorating, making sure you've got enough resources to last you, but definitely a lot more survival focused. You definitely need another screen or your phone open while you sail to new lands to cure the little bit of boredom. So Windbound came out last year. It's available on all consoles, Switch, Xbox, PlayStation and of course PC, and it's definitely got a lot in common with Valheim, all down to the sailing, maybe a little bit of the exploration and combat, and difficulty. Windbound is a bit of a roguelike. You can adjust and change the game mode and settings, but there are some that mean you have to restart completely when you die, or you have to start all over again, but you do retain some of your items that you once had. So it's got that mix, that little blend that I definitely think some people really like. Kara is the lead main protagonist as you explore different biomes, sailing in chapters. So there is a story that goes all the way through this game, and that's definitely something that's a plus point. When it launched, I actually quite liked it. It was just a little bit repetitive, and it did take a little bit too long to get some of the interesting locations. The sailing is great, and your sail ship pretty much is your base. You'll be upgrading it, adding modifications, and pretty much living off of it to get all the brand new weapons and fight all these brand new creatures. Since it's released, it's had a bunch of content updates, all free, adding and really enhancing this game. I definitely want to check it out and see how much it's improved. They've added new game modes, new enemy types, new skill trees or new items. Definitely something I want to revisit, and I think Windbound is a great shout for anyone looking for that kind of similar, maybe hard experience that Valheim can sometimes offer. It may look more like Breath of the Wild than Valheim, but the mechanics and the exploration really does remind me of that game, and since it's had all that content I mentioned added, I think it's definitely a better game than it was, so maybe something you should check out. It is single player only though, so bear that in mind. One of the biggest survival games of all time, not just Minecraft, is of course Terraria. Now it's a bit of a hot topic whether or not this is fully survival, since there's no actual need to eat or drink. You're not going to die just because you run out of food. And that's pretty much the same for Valheim when you think about it. You don't die just because you go low on food, you just have a really poor stat and you're likely to get killed if you don't buff yourself. Still not convinced? Well, there's so many other compelling stuff going on with this game in terms of mobs attacking your base on a regular basis, the foraging, the crafting, the having to go and mine resources, and yes, it is a 2D game. I know it's going to not float everyone's boat and it's very different from Valheim. But the actual mechanics, the gameplay mechanics of Terraria are very similar in how you deal and progress. In Terraria, you have to pretty much go and take on the bosses if you want to unlock brand new items and have access to brand new features. In fact, once you defeat one of the big main bosses, the Wall of Flesh, it unlocks a whole new difficulty. And that is very reminiscent of Valheim to me, with the way that the game gets increasingly harder as you progress, taking on different bosses. You'll find different types of enemies attacking you in Valheim, and it's pretty much the same thing in Terraria with lots of different events. It's a great game, don't dismiss it just as a kid's game. It is one of the best games out there that I've ever played. I would easily put this in my top 5. You can transfer your character to brand new worlds. There's even certain worlds that only have certain biomes, so again that's going to be very similar to what Valheim offers in the future. So for sure, the devs have stated that Terraria was one of its inspirations behind Valheim. You should absolutely check this out and give it a shot if you've not actually tried it. Okay, I'm probably stretching this one to really accommodate how it might be like Valheim, but I do like the look of it, and it has got Norse mythology in it, so I'm going to give you a little shout out right now. Odin Valhalla Rising is seemingly some sort of Black Desert online MMO style game. The looks of it look great, the visuals look amazing. No even idea whether or not it's going to be coming to the West. It got revealed a few months ago as going to be one of them Korean big huge MMO games. But it does look pretty cool, and it has got the lore mixed in with a little variations that I kind of like. I don't necessarily want to just revisit wholesale stock mythos of Norway and Sweden and Scandinavia. I would like to see some branching out of it and mixing it up a little bit, and definitely this one does do that. It's promising to have crafting, combat, action, RPG elements, proper multiplayer, and maybe a little bit of either settlement or base building too. So a very loose connection to Valheim, but yeah, if you like Norse mythology with a little bit of a remix, then this might be something to keep your eyes on in the near future. And it's got big poopies too. No way is this going to ever appear on an Xbox or PlayStation. It will probably be just PC, but you never know. Maybe somewhere down the line. I said the same thing about Black Desert Online. I never thought I'd see that on console, but it did appear, and some people generally do like it. So yeah, who knows? The future of MMOs? Possibly. It's got big dragons, big scaly serpents, so yeah, something maybe to keep an eye on. At first glance, you might think Salt 2 Shores of Gold has got more in common with Sea of Thieves. Well, I guess the pirate element and of course sailing your ships. But this is an open world procedure generated game that's going to be on Kickstarter very soon. I've got a dev interview going live also very soon, so make sure you check that out or go and look it up. But this is the sequel. The first game was a bit janky, and it was their first attempt at making a game, so it's a good few years old now. But the sequel is offering much improved visuals, a lot more to do, a lot more to explore, and lots of variety in how you level up your character, gain XP, and pretty much upgrade yourself. Definitely the character models look 10 times better. They were a bit Roblox looking in the first game. Continuing its survival mechanics, you are going to have to hunt for food and obviously do things like nice relaxing fishing. I think this game looks gorgeous. The sea looks amazing. You can customize your ship to your heart's content, really make it your own, and your ship is definitely your base. So that feeling of exploration, going across lands that are going to be different for every single person's playthrough, I think is really important, and that's why I think it shares a lot with Valheim. It will only be single player when it does launch, but they are hoping to add multiplayer as it goes through early access. So go and check out the Kickstarter page. Definitely one for the far future, but who knows, maybe if they get the support they need, they might be able to come out a bit quicker. Tribes of Midgard is a game for the future. In fact, it's coming out in the next few months. It is a 10-player co-op game where you can be a Viking. I think I don't need to say too much more why it's like Valheim. It's a really cool game. It's like an RPG action adventure game where you can play with your friends, taking on all sorts of enemies as you build up your settlement and explore new regions. It's even got goblins in it, as you saw. I really like the idea that it's 10 players. It's really big and the game does scale up. They had a demo available a little while ago last year and have been improving and adding more and more to it since they got actually publishing deal done with the Gearbox team. So hopefully when the game comes out in a few months, it will live up to some of the hype that I've been hopefully generating for this game for a long time. But absolutely, I want to check this one out. The combat looks great, the action looks good, I like the art style. Not everyone's going to love the top-down view, but I think it really suits, and I can't wait to try this brand new co-op Viking survival game. The actual surviving in terms of food and water might be a bit light. I don't necessarily think it's that type of game, but you certainly will be using lots of food and potions to boost you up as you take on these giant enemies that will come and attack your base. There is a base defense element to it as well. Your settlement doesn't just get upgraded just for the looks. You will be having to put defenses and keep the enemies at bay. So again, another great reason why it's so like Valheim. Absolutely looking forward to this one. One of my most hyped, favoured games that I'm looking forward to in 2021. Hopefully coming very soon. They've been putting a tentative release date of spring and it's going to be available for the PlayStation, PC, but sadly not Xbox. For sure you're going to see this on my channel with news updates about the game beforehand and obviously when it launches. Now, a few games that you really maybe should avoid when you're looking for your quest for that next Viking survival game. Valnir Survival is just not the one. It launched like 2 years ago in early access and it's only had a few updates since then. It just really isn't something I would recommend. Going through the reviews, people were saying that just so many bugs are still in the game, and the last update the devs did was back in November. It all intents purposes is a dead game. It's meant to be an MMO survival Viking game where you can build up your own settlements with other players, explore new lands and take on all sorts of mythological enemies, just like Valheim. They've even got skeletons or zombies, big massive trolls, but the execution of it was much left to be desired, with just so many bugs and issues, lots of desync and players not being able to actually join servers when it launched. Since then, as I said, the amount of updates the game's had just hasn't been on par with what you expect from an early access title, and it's kind of slipped into oblivion. So yeah, avoid this one. Now for a game that I know pretty well, Atlas. I was one of the first to break and leak the trailer that came out before its release in 2018. It was plagued with problems, overhyped, loads of people were expecting an experience much like Sea of Thieves but on a bigger scale, and what they got instead was a crappier version of Ark. It is meant to be an MMO, and since that time of release it has undergone lots of updates, although it has had lots of problems too. Different lead designers have come and gone, and it seemed to have been left for months and months without any actual real progress. But in the last 6 months things have picked up. They've been improving and adding new features and really changing it from a survival grind like Ark to something a little bit more MMO like, and I think that's the right way to go. So why is it like Valheim? Well, of course, it's the exploration, the sailing. It can get a bit grindy in Atlas. In fact, it's one of the most boring aspects of the game. But there is a big choice in ships, and the amount of exploration points you can go to is pretty good. With the taming and some of the items that you'll find only available on certain islands, it does make exploration a necessity. The negative points are it's still a bit of a PvP MMO fest. There was a single player added and it is available on Xbox, but unfortunately the single player is not being updated at the same kind of speed or time as the online section, and is currently miles and miles behind where online is right now. It may all come good, and I'll be keen to revisit Atlas when it's coming out of early access, but this is definitely something I probably would avoid for a little while longer at least. It's got some great shipbuilding in it and you can make bases on land, but for now, yeah, this is something I just don't think is worth your time until it really is coming close to full release and we've seen all the improvements added to it. If you're wondering where God of War is, maybe Minecraft or Skyrim, they're all great games. I could have mentioned a bunch of other survival games that have elements. Conan Exiles has got a fair decent amount of exploration and obviously base building, but some of them games I don't know. I just don't know if they have enough qualities to remind me a little bit of Valheim, and I've definitely taken into account what the developers have said themselves about what inspired them. I also didn't want to mention just the most obvious games, like some of them, like Minecraft. So yeah, this is my little list. You tell me what you think. What games I've got the elements of Valheim that you should recommend to others? And what are you most looking forward to coming in the future? Is it going to be something similar to Valheim? Or maybe just updates with Valheim and you're not going to be playing any other games? Let me know in the comment section down below. Until next time, Ratbags, I'll catch you lot later.